Project Management for the Masses podcast, episode 31. Servant Leadership with Mark Phillipy.
Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business. Write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Susanne Madsen.
Learn from the experts. Think outside the box. Have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Project Management for the Masses podcast. My name is Cesar Abade, your host, and this show is your weekly reminder that your career matters more than your job and that your life is a project and you are the manager. Whether you work for yourself or for a company, your job stability is really just your ability to land your next gig. So, join me in practicing intentional, planned, and value-adding relevance, starting right now. So it seems like I'm back to health. If you follow me on social media, you probably heard, because I was whining about it, that I had been sick the last week and had to skip a podcast episode last week. I hate doing that. It's not like I didn't have the content, but I just felt so sick. My energy level was so low that I didn't feel like doing anything. I had a number of interviews recorded that week, and I felt so bad that I had to cancel them. And some of the guests, if they're listening right now, they've heard me apologize 100 times already. But again, for those of you that I left hanging last week, I apologize. But I'm finally feeling great again, and as you can probably tell, and I'm here back at the microphone. Now, today I continue to talk about leadership, and I have my new friend here, Mark Phillipy, to give us his take on this important topic. So how about we get started?
Special guest coming up next. PMforthemasses.com. PMforthemasses.com.
Mark has been a project manager for 15 years and was recently elected as the VP of Programs in his local PMI chapter. He became a certified project management professional in 2001. His project management experience has focused on the IT industry, including all aspects of software development and implementation, using both traditional and agile project management frameworks. He blogs as the Sensible Project Manager and is the host of 2 podcasts about project management, the Sensible Project Manager podcast and the Sensible PM 101 podcast. He also leads the Sensible Project Manager Hangout community on Google+, hosts a weekly PM Hangout discussing various PM topics, and has a right thumb that is as big as his head. And Mark is on the line with me today from his office in Spokane, Washington. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hi, Caesar. My thumb is huge.
I'd say it's nothing. It's no sensible at all. It's huge. It's right there. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Mark, I invited you here on the show to talk about leadership, but if people listen to my show, chances are they have bumped into you either with the PM Hangouts or your podcast as well, and they see, and myself included, I see you doing all these things. So I thought we'd start by taking a step back, and maybe I'll ask you about your background, if that's okay with you. I'm just dropping this on you right now. I hope it's okay.
That's okay. No problem. I first started out in my career as in the aeronautical industry. I was a design engineer by trade, and I first started inroads in software testing and the CAD systems actually at Boeing. And I just enjoyed it, fell in love with the IT side of things. I thought I was going to be working towards a design action on the airplane. I actually did spend about a year on the early design, preliminary design on the 777 airplane, but I went back to the computing side of things, and there through time just grew into further and further leadership roles, which it basically turned into project management. And so I've been a certified project manager, PMP, since 2001, and I'm also a certified Scrum Master as well.
Very nice. So what do you do today, and how does the blogging and all the podcasts and hangouts, how does that fit with what you're doing?
Well, my wife calls me a project manager by day and a geek by night. And so, I have a full-time job. I work as a contractor on the local utility here in my local area. And so I have my daytime job is project management. And then at night or early in the mornings or on the weekends, I spend some time just communicating with the PM community, getting to chat with people and just spending time with the podcast. And I just love meeting people and learning about them and just talking about project management. That just floats my boat.
Mm-hmm. That's very much similar to what I'm doing. And so let's talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people that reach out to me because of the podcast that I do and the other things that I do, they all have this desire to do something on the side and maybe do a blog or write a book. So, and you seem to be doing this really well in a variety of different ways. I would say, way more than what I'm doing. So how, do you mind if we talk about this a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Sure. So how do you see, because obviously it takes time to invest in writing and podcasting is, you have to write and then you have to record and then you have to produce and edit and all those things. How do you see the investment of time that you put into this? And how do you, for example, you mentioned you have a wife, you have a family. How does that fit with the family dynamic?
My wife and I have had several discussions about this. And in fact, I got the urge probably about 2.5 years ago to start doing this and my first thought was I just decided, okay, I'm just going to start blogging about it. And then I learned about podcasting and I saw that as another medium. And I actually started, as I said, about 2.5 years ago, I did my first 3 podcasts, and then just something came up in my life. Frankly, what happened was my wife and I went through an IRS audit.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, yeah, not sweet. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But that actually put things on hold for almost a year while we went through that pain, just because as I didn't realize how much effort there is in both blogging, doing the podcast, and there's a fair amount of time that's associated with that. So we put that on hold. I did a couple of blog posts during that time, and then once I got that crazy audit out of the way, then I've been able to spend more time. And what I find is I want to have that good balance. I do have, as I said, a full-time job that I spend at least 40 hours a week at. But I don't want to lose time away from my family. And so I find time that is good for me and frankly, that's 5 o'clock in the morning that I'll wake up and I'll start working. I'll get a couple of hours having to do with the podcast or the blog ahead of time before I head off to work. And that way I'm not taking time away from my family. It's time that they don't see that missing. They still do see me do some time, maybe some at night, but most of that I try to get before I take off to work.
Very good. Very, very good approach. And it's similar to what I do as well. And now, how would you judge, how you've been doing this for 2.5 years, and has this impacted your career as a project manager? Well,
for a while, I did it not to hide it from my company that I work for. I just didn't want to cross the line between, them thinking that I'm doing something on the side. And I just really, people at work didn't know that I was doing this unless they ran across it. And it was pretty funny about about 8 months ago or so, my boss came across my blog post and my podcast, and he, in the middle of our PMO project management meeting, he announced that he found this great resource on the website. And then of course it was all out. and I think that what started it for me, even going back before I started blogging and doing the podcast, I have always just loved, as I have gone through my career, sharing the things that I learn. I'm a technology kind of a geek, so I pick up tools fairly quickly. I pick up processes fairly quickly, but I love communicating that and teaching other people. And so this has become an extension of what I'd love to do off air.
Mm-hmm. Basically, you're working on a passion of yours and sharing that with the world and seeing some good results there. I mean, your boss is offering you as a resource the rest of your PMO, so that's very cool. And you're also involved with your PMI chapter, right?
I am. I have just become the VP of programs in my chapter here in the Inland Northwest in Spokane, Washington.
Very good. Wow, that's great. And the thing is, when you start putting yourself out there, you start to be seen as a leader, and you start inspiring other people to do things, and which kind of rolls into the topic of our conversation here today. Now, you've been inspiring people and taking a leadership role with not only with your job but also with your online activities, right? So, are there any leaders in your past that have inspired you?
There have been so many leaders throughout my life, even back when I was a teenager. I'm very active in my church, and just thinking about the leaders that I saw at church. And actually throughout my whole life, I've looked at many different people. Every situation I'm in, whether it's at church, whether I'm at work, when I was at school, at college, all of the different times that I perceive somebody as a leader, I would identify things that I liked about their leadership style. So there was a lot of people that I can't even name. There was one specifically that I can think of. I served a mission for my church, and the president of the mission was a great leader, and he kind of gave me an example. One of my philosophies as a project manager or as a leader is that I like being a servant leader. And this man, President Stoddard, he was that type of a person. He was the epitome of, he would do anything for those of the people that he was leading. And he was a very big, and he wouldn't say it this way, but he was really a servant leader. And that was one of the things that influenced me. Thinking through my career, I try to serve people. And I think that is directly related to what I saw in him.
Mm-hmm. So if I were interviewing you for a position right now, and I asked you about your leadership style, how would you describe it?
It would be, it's a combination. I certainly am a servant leader. I believe that when you help people on your team, you serve them in every way you can. You're removing roadblocks for them. That is really important. My leadership style is I'm very, from what I can hear from you as I hear your podcast, probably very similar. I'm fairly calm under pressure. It takes quite a bit to ruffle my feathers. I don't take things personal, and so I can be able to lead the team in a way that we get a good relationship with each other. So I get close to my teams, and part of it is because I do serve them. I want to make sure that they understand that I am not going to ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And I think that's really important. The other part of it is, as I work with my team, I ask, I try to develop an environment where they will take ownership of the solution or whatever it is that we're delivering. That is really important for me. They need to understand that they need to be able to get behind the vision of the project. And if they do, man, they just take it and roll with it. And so that's the type of leadership I try to embellish, is that I want to be able to empower my team and help them out in every way as they go through the project.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you have an example of something that happened in your career as a servant leader that kind of illustrates how you can be a servant, like something tangible that actually happened?
Oh, well, boy, I think of a very specific thing. I'll give a good example of, it's almost on the servant leader side. Quite often, I'm in the IT industry, and quite often we have to do our go lives. We've developed software, and it's time to start rolling that software out, or we're taking an existing piece of software, and we are upgrading that. Those upgrades and those activities, those usually happen in the middle of the night because there is outage times that are approved. And so I never will ask my team to say, if we have a go live that starts at midnight and it's going to run through till 4:00 in the morning, I am always there for those go lives, especially the big ones. I want to make sure that I'm there, even if I am not doing a single thing on the release. They are technically doing everything. I just want to make sure that I'm there to help them out as they go. And that's one example. Another one that I can think of, I just thought of, a great mentor of mine, which was actually a peer of mine, as I began learning project management. He and I, his name was Mark as well. We got to the point we said, what can we do to help our teams get motivated? We were developing financial solutions. And so what we put together is every Thursday, we would get a cart and put a couple of gallons of ice cream and root beer on there, and we would deliver to everybody in the team, going up and down the aisles and the cubicles and giving them a root beer float. Just something to give them some motivation. And they got to the point where we'd show up at their desk and their eyes would just get big and say, it was a very small gesture, but it was us showing them that, hey, we're here for you. This is something that is very simple, but we thank you very much for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And I'll bet that this is something they remember. They might not remember some of the obstacles and some of the difficult times they had during that project, but they'll remember the root beer float, and they'll associate that experience with the leadership, which was you and Marcus.
Yeah, and they do. I've talked to them, several of them, as all of us have moved on to different positions or different jobs. And quite often I hear that comment, do you remember when you did that? Yeah, remember.
Yeah, I do something here when I do meetings. I always bring, we call it Timbits. I think in the States you call it donut holes. It's just little donut balls. And over time, people kind of remember me as the Timbit guy, and they kind of learn to expect that, that I'll bring that to the meetings, and just kind of breaks the ice. And it's something I have to go. I'm running late for the meeting sometimes, but I need to stop and get the thing. And it is part of that as well, because you as the project manager could be thought of as, okay, well, I'm above that. I'm not going to go and buy donuts for people, But when you do that, it kind of it makes people see that you're on their side and you're part of the team as well, right?
It does, and I'll give you some additional information about those. What did you call those donut holes?
Well, here we call Timbits.
Okay, Timbits. So here's the great thing about Timbits is they're extractions out of a donut, right?
Right. Oh, here it comes.
So that means that they are negative calories.
That's true.
So you're not fattening up your team. You're giving them negative calories because they're extractions from donuts.
That's right. So if I have 5 of them, that means that I did not eat 5 donuts.
That's right.
Couple boxes a day and I'll be all set. Very cool. So all right. So and I'm sure there are more examples. I could tell different examples of when being a servant leader really helped. But what is I think that's a good angle for this conversation, because I think that people have have read that before, about being a servant leader, and you mentioned that you go to church, and the person who started this church, the Christian church, could be seen as a servant leader, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, and regardless of whether people believe in it or not, the truth is this is a movement that started 2,000 years ago, and it's as strong as ever, and it has a lot to do, I think, with the leadership that set the tone for it. So, what is your philosophy behind this servant leader idea, and how does that make you a better project manager?
Well, I think that if people see that you are willing to support them in their work. First of all, we as project managers, we are trying to gather together a team, build up take different skills from all these different people. Each individual has a different strength, and our job as project managers and as leaders are to understand what those strengths are, utilize those to be able to deliver something that is of greater ability than if you were to do it yourself. So if I can get that team to understand that as they work together as a team, one of those pieces of that team is me as a peer with them. Not that they won't take direction from me, because I think leadership is really important to be able to paint that vision, but be able to show with them that you are willing to help them along in any way possible. To me, that builds camaraderie, and that builds the fact that team usually will turn into the point where they'll do almost anything for you. And when you get that kind of teamwork and that kind of camaraderie happening, you're just able to deliver great things.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure you've worked, you've been a PMP since 2001, which tells me that you've been doing this for a while. I'm sure you have worked under leaders that were, let's say, less than ideal. So what are some of the things, common pitfalls on that we should avoid when thinking about becoming leaders and servant leaders, and maybe something that you've seen in other leaders that you learned and you try not to do?
Well, I'll tell you what, the probably the easiest way to say it is I hate it. If I put myself in somebody that is leading me, in the position where somebody's leading me, I hate it when somebody is trying to micromanage me. From internally, my internal sense says I'm going to push back on that. Right or wrong, that's just my internal feelings. And so the things that I like to stay away from is I never want to micromanage. Now, what that sometimes can become difficult, because if we're under pressure to get something done quickly, we almost have the feeling that sometimes we might want to tell somebody this is exactly how you do things. And as a leader, there are times when you do need to help guide people through that and help give direction. Giving that direction is really important, but not to the point where I'm telling them every step along the way, because quite frankly, they are an expert in their particular field. And even though I might be an expert in that particular field as well, they might have a different direction on how they do that. As long as they're going forward in the direction that should be, and we're going to be delivering the value to the end of the customer, then that's great. So again, the pitfall that I like to stay away from is I want to give the people the freedom to be able to be creative on how they deliver and not force them into a certain path. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
It does. But a lot of times the project manager will not have much of a say on who is part of the team. So how do you balance that desire not to micromanage to, let's say you are maybe not 100% confident that something is being done the way that it should?
Yeah, so all of us have different strengths and weaknesses. Even if I have a person on the team that has a weakness that is glaring, that person still has value. And you're right, we don't get to pick our team members, but we need to look at that individual, figure out what their strengths are, and try to capitalize on their strengths. And if they have weaknesses, well, there's other people on the team that probably have strengths that will counterbalance that weakness. So whether it means that, all right, we're going to realign tasks, and maybe John, this task is seems to be either difficult for you. Let's see if we can get somebody else to do this. Let's find out a task that is going to be along your strengths. That's one way. Or, okay, you're struggling with this task. How can we coach you along so that you can deliver that task and come out the other end greater skills in this particular area? So there's mentoring that goes along with that. But you need to do that in a fashion in which the individual still feels valuable to the team. And if they don't feel valuable to the team, then it's almost you don't need to be on the team because you're not providing any value to it. Mm-hmm. So in that case, there might be times when an individual needs to be replaced.
Right, and that's always difficult, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, have you ever received any advice from others that have made you a better person or a leader?
Yeah, there's a couple of them that I can think of. Going back to the President Stoddard, the one that influenced me quite a bit when I was 19. I can be a procrastinator at times, and sometimes because I am also kind of a perfectionist. Sometimes it takes a little bit for me to make a decision on something. My President Stoddard saw that in me when I was serving under him, and he said to me one time, he says, "You need to stop being a mugwump." What is a mugwump? So, well, I see that you're often sitting on the fence with your mug on one side of the fence and your womp on the other side. You got to get off the fence. Doesn't matter which way you go, but do something. Don't be a mugwump. So that was one that was that helps me understand. Hey, even though I might have a tough time making a decision real quick, I need to be able to gather in as quickly as possible the information and make a decision. It always doesn't have to be the perfect decision, but making a decision is more important than letting it sit around and not taking action. The other thing is that I also had a manager come to me one time. I thought I was doing great, and I think I was, but I had worked myself in a position where I was really not replaceable because I knew everything about the specific thing I was doing. This was actually before pre-project management time. And he told me, he said, "Hey, Mark, you need to be able to find somebody, make yourself replaceable, because you're not going to be able to be promoted until somebody can take your place." And I hadn't thought about it like that before. I need to be able to help people take my place so that I can move up. And those were two important things that I've learned from leaders in the past.
Wow. I feel like I need to kind of talk about that a little bit, because and even here in this podcast, we've talked many times about the fact that you need to work on standing out so you are irreplaceable. So that is a very interesting perspective that I hadn't considered before. So the danger here is that if you are replaceable, that you become more of a commodity. So what do you have to say about that idea?
That's okay. I also worked with a different person, and I once asked him, aren't you worried about losing your job? And he says, "Hey, I was looking for a job when I found this one. There's others out there. I can go anywhere. I have great skills. I have a lot of confidence in what I can do. I can take my skills where I'm valued pretty much anywhere. I'm not worried about that. Long gone are the days where my father worked as a telephone guy, and he worked for 44 years for the telephone company. Started when he was 18 or 17 years old, and long gone are those days. We work until we work until we can't feel like we're giving value anymore. And then it's time to move on. And that's what companies want us to do. They want us to be able to provide value. And if we're not providing value, then it's not right for us. So I'm never worried about that because I want to make sure that I have the ability to provide the value to the company. And when I'm not doing that anymore, time for me to move on. And I'm okay because I've groomed somebody behind me to fill my spot, and the company is still in a good position.
Mm-hmm. Very good. There's something I talk about, and I always, I'm an engineer, so you learn calculus, and I always think about integrating the situation. Like seeing what is the constant here that's defining the change. So I think in your case here, what you're saying is if you teach somebody to do your job and you become replaceable, that's one thing, but you now have a skill, which is to train people into doing jobs, and now that's a new set of skills. So you kind of integrated, you went up by a level of degree here. So in that sense, now you have you providing new value to this company, in which we're going to promote you because you're good at doing that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in a way, you still kind of irreplaceable because who else can do that? Who else is so confident in their in their value that they are not afraid to teach someone else to do their job, and that alone is a value that you can provide.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. Now, Mark, let's talk about a little bit about the things that you're doing. So explain to people who are not familiar with the Hangout, explain what you're doing with the Google Hangouts.
So I first started with the idea, again, to do a blog and the podcast, the Sensible Project Manager podcast. And I got thinking, okay, a lot of people really like to see a little bit more interaction in a different way. And so I saw this new technology coming in to Google Plus, and that's the Google Plus Hangout. And I just love that because you can get up to 10 people on a Hangout and just get together and chat. So the initial thought, and this is really where I want this to go, I'm big on, I want to start conversations about project management. I love learning from other people around the world. And so I started a community on Google Plus, much like yours. But this one's built around the idea that we want to get people together to talk about project management. And one of those major ways to do that is in Google Plus. So the Hangouts. So each week we hold the PM Hangout through the Google Plus Hangout community, the Sensible PM Hangout community, and we just have a different topic. So sometimes it's nobody else shows up, and I'm just talking about a certain topic myself. And other times we're able to get 3 or 4 people getting there, or I'll bring on special guests where we will talk about a very specific topic. And then it was about 4 or 5 months ago, I teamed up with, in the Twitter platform, PM Chat. Robert Kelly was a co-founder of the PM Chat on Twitter. And so we team up so that we have the PM Hangout on Google Plus, and then they're chatting on PM Chat that happens every Friday at 9 o'clock Pacific time, noon Eastern time, about the same topic. So there's a venue for both people, those that liked Twitter. Robert's leading that, and those that like the idea that I can have visual discussions and communicate there, we have that on the Hangout as well. And we talk about the same topic between the two.
Mm-hmm. So, what's the time again for the listener who is might be interested in joining?
Sure, it's noon Eastern every Friday, or I'm in the Pacific Coast, so it's Pacific time, 9 o'clock. And you can join either the PM Hangout, or you can go to Twitter and you can join the PM Chat there.
Very cool. And obviously those are both at the same time.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's almost like the PM Chat is like a chat room for the webinar that you're holding in a way, but it's spread across 2 platforms. So people who are who like Twitter, they don't have to, or sometimes they're at work, they can't be looking at video, but they can join in the Twitter chat with their phone or something.
Correct. That's exactly what happens. So a lot of people that are in the chat, some can watch video and some can't. They'll usually pull up the Hangout, watch that, and talk about things that are happening both in the PM Hangout as well as on the chat itself.
Very nice. Now, Mark, if people want to learn more about what you do and the PM Hangout and the PM chat, where should they go?
Well, they can go to sensiblepm.com. I've got links there to the Hangout as well as all the other things that I do. You can also hit me up, send me an email at podcast@sensiblepm.com. Or you can go to Google+, search for the Sensible Project Manager Hangout community, join the community there, and enjoy the chats there.
Very good. And I'm going to have links to these things and all the other things that we talked about here today on pmforthemasses.com. And I believe this is going to be episode 31. So you can all go to pmforthemasses.com/31 and find all the links and some of the points that we talked about here on the show today. So Mark, I think it was great to finally talk to you live, and I appreciate you taking the time for being on the show, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Caesar.
You are listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
All right, so that was my conversation with Mark. I could talk to him for another hour. He's just a great guy that we have a lot in common, as you can tell. And if you listen to my show but you haven't checked out Mark's content, I find it hard to believe that because he's everywhere. But I really recommend you go and check him out. And you find the links that we talked about on today's on the show notes for today's episode at pmforthemasses.com/31. And if you do connect with him, tell him that you heard about him here on the PM for the Masses podcast. Now, on that topic of leadership, I'm still working on my leadership week, which I talked about last time. And if you remember, my plan is to release one episode every day for 5 days in a row, dedicated to this topic of leadership, and I'll have 5 different guests. I might have 4 different guests, and then the last one I might do a solo show again. I still haven't figured out all the details, but so I don't have a date for you. But as soon as I do, I will announce it here on the show, and you'll be able to download. If you subscribe to it using iTunes, you subscribe to the show using iTunes or any other podcatcher, then you don't have to worry about it. You're going to be able to automatically see these episodes in your smartphone or iPod. But if you listen to the show by any other means, don't worry, because I will be announcing the date. Now, one thing I'd like to talk about here today is a book that I recently read. And I was introduced to the author of this book. His name is Mark Sieverkrop, by a friend that we have in common. And we chatted on Skype, and we hit it off right away. Seems like we have a lot in common. Our messages are really overlapping in a number of ways. And I got an opportunity to read his new book right around the time, I think it was right before he launched on Amazon. And the name of the book is, and I'll give you the full title here. The name of the book is Project Success: How to Break Barriers and Bring Your Ideas to Life. Okay. And as you can probably tell, if you're a project manager and you're listening to this title, if you have a good hunch about what this is about, you're probably right. In short, the book is basically a very good introduction to project management for the individual, especially for those who are not familiar with project management concepts. But it also talks about mindset, and it really encourages you to tackle big projects and big goals, especially when you don't feel like you have what it takes, or you don't have the time, or you have barriers, between you and that goal. It's a very quick read, and I think I read it in one afternoon, and it's available at Amazon for $8.99. I think it's just an ebook right now. So, but even if you don't have a Kindle, you can buy it and you can read it on your computer or on your smartphone or iPad or Android tablet. There's a Kindle app for pretty much all the devices. So you can get it there for $8.99. And just to give you an idea, I'm just going to quickly read here the review that I left for the book in Amazon. Here he goes. The title is An Introduction to Project Management with a Sprinkle of Inspiration. Here's the review. Mark will convince you that you have what it takes to bring your ideas to life, and then give you a neat little toolbox to help you do it. I read this book in one afternoon, and it was a great introduction to project management for the individual, as well as an inspiration to change mindsets when it comes to what we think is possible to accomplish. If you have been dreaming about doing something great, but don't feel you have the time, the knowledge, or the tools to make it happen, this book might just be what you need right now. And then I sign my name. So, I hope you get the idea here. For $8.99 and for one afternoon, I think it's a great read. And Mark, if you're listening right now, keep up the great work. And I hope the book continues to be a success. And let's stay in touch. All right. One last thing I'd like to talk about here, and this has nothing to do with project management at all, but it's becoming a big part of my life right now. It's the Fitbit. And if you know what a Fitbit is, you probably don't need my explanation, but it's a device that you wear, either on your belt, or the model that I have, I wear on my wrist. And it's basically a fitness tracking device. It's a very high-tech pedometer, basically. It counts your steps. It counts how many floors. It has an altimeter, from what I gather, so it knows how many flights of stairs you have climbed in a day, keeps track of that, keeps track of how many active minutes in a day you keep, how many distance traveled, by foot, and it sets a goal for you. So I think the default goal is 10,000 steps. So basically my daily goal is to walk 10,000 steps. And by my calculations, one step is about a meter long, or 3 feet. So, if you do the math, 10,000 steps would be 10 kilometers, right? It's a 10K. So the goal is for you to move by walking 10K every day. And you'd be surprised at how much you walk around the house or in the office. In my case, if I don't do anything, if I just walk around the house as normally as I do, and in the office, grocery store and stuff, I managed to get between 3,000 and 4,000 steps. So what's left then, it's 6,000 to 7,000 steps, which I can do by going for a walk after lunch, and it's a great thing. I have lunch, then I go for a walk. I have a quick lunch, so I'm not wasting a lot of time, and then I just go for a walk. There's an indoor track close to my office, and I just walk around there for 45 minutes. And listen to audiobooks or podcasts, and it's great, and I don't even need to change. Just put some walking shoes, and that's it. So it's really, if you're looking to get more, this is not about bodybuilding, it's just about being more active, I really recommend you get this thing, because it really keeps you aware of how much you're moving and how active you are during the day. And one of the best things about the Fitbit is that there is a community of users that you can connect with. So I have a number of friends who are also Fitbit users, and we connect on Fitbit via the iPhone app or the Android app. So it keeps track of how many steps we do every day, and it puts us on a leaderboard, right? So we're always trying to beat each other. So that really keeps me motivated to walk and to move, right? And the other thing is you can create small, closed communities of people. So I created a community for PM for the Masses. So if you're listening right now and you have a Fitbit, go to pmforthemasses.com/Fitbit, and you'll be able to join the community there. And I believe, as you know, that life is a project, and you are the manager. And part of life is, being fit, taking care of your body. And if you feel like you're out of shape or you're not moving enough, this thing is a great gateway to better fitness. It's not gonna, be super. I'll tell you right now, I lost 16 pounds, and I'm at 180 pounds right now. It's okay, I can share. And I don't think I've been this thing since I was in high school. It's great. I feel great, and really, I'm just going for walks. It's not like I joined the gym or anything. I'm trying to eat better as well, but combination of trying to eat better and doing the steps every day has really made an impact, and I feel great. So my point is, if you feel like you need to be more active, and the thought of joining a gym or training for runs and things like that, if you think that's overwhelming and you're not in that type of shape yet, this is a great way to get started. Gets you moving, you start seeing results, and it's fun because it's a community. So again, go to pmforthemasses.com/31, which is the show notes for today's episode, and you find the link there to the community I just created. And that's it. I'd like to thank again Mark Phillipy for being on the show today and for inspiring me to continue to work on being a servant leader. And I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are. What do you think of servant leadership? Do you agree or disagree with what we talked about here today? Let me know what you think by just leaving a comment at pmforthemasses.com/31. At the bottom of the post there, you'll see the comment box. Just leave a comment there, and I promise you I'll reply to you, and we can have a little conversation there about servant leadership or about anything that we talked about here today. So that's it. That's it for the show today. I feel great. I feel really blessed for being back to health, and I hope that you have a fantastic week. And I will talk to you again in about 7 days. And until then, remember, the life is a project, and you, my friend, are the manager. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
pmforthemasses.com